Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland, a post-game show where we'll be reviewing the riveting game between Arsenal and Manchester United, the absolute brilliant 0-0. Today, discussing it is me and Josh. How are you, Josh?
That was like 90 minutes plus of my life I'll never get back. It's not as bad as the Southampton game last weekend because, we lost that. But it wasn't much better. I think there were a bit more positives from it. I think it's one of those that if a neutral was watching it, they'd say, that was an all right 0-0. Like, there was stuff in it for everybody, but not if you were an Arsenal fan. It wasn't great. We certainly had moments, but it feels like, to me, 2 points dropped rather than a point gained. What about you?
Definitely. I felt like, to be honest, I felt like neither team deserved to lose it, but I felt like if there was one team that was going to win it, it had to be us. I think that Man United had chances, definitely they did, but I felt like we had the more clear-cut chances, and I feel that if we had just stuck away just a few of our chances, then, well, obviously we would have won, but I felt like we played better than them. And I know, obviously, they're away and we were the home team, but I just felt like we got hold of the game much more, even from the start. I think that we started better than them and we finished better than them. I know they had a chance at the end, but yeah, I feel that if you look at the teams as a whole, I think that we were much better than them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most interesting things for me is perhaps in hindsight, we'll look at the... I'm going to have to say it was a tactic rather than because it happened so many times. I just assume it's then a tactic rather than three individual players doing something strange, which would be the shots from distance. I think in the opening 20 minutes, we must have had 4 or 5 long shots. Partey, Lacazette. I think Luiz might have had one. Bellerin attempted one. Any chance we got a sighter on De Gea and we were taking a shot. So I wonder, in hindsight, we'd probably say if we held on to the ball a little longer and tried to open up a chance, it wouldn't happen. But it did seem like something, like a tactic, to have those kind of long shots. And I'm not sure it worked for us necessarily, but it was interesting nonetheless. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I think that may have been a combination of also us, Lacazette playing the kind of false 9 role without someone running off him. I think we'll talk about the absentees in a second, but I think if we have different players playing, like I said, would have had runners. Like if Aubameyang playing off him, he can play that sort of deep role. But the problem is that Lacazette was coming into that quote unquote number 10 role, but he had no one else up there with him. So he was the striker, but also the guy doing the link up play. But there was no one for him to link up off. So I guess that kind of hindered us as well. So because there was sort of no one in and around the box. People just taking shots from far just to see, what would happen.
Yeah, and I think before we go to the absentees, because there's one player that I think in the first half we probably need to mention that came in for one of those. I want to say a big shout to Nishan, who has subscribed to us for another month. That'll be on the Twitch, where you can find us. And if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can specially do like a super special subscription to us where we get some dollaroos straight from Jeff Bezos' pockets, and who doesn't want that? But yeah, Karl, let's go into the absentees. I think we should go for the main one, which is Saka not in the side at all. I think it's an injury, isn't it?
Yeah, apparently he's got a stiff hip. So that's the reason why he missed out. And obviously, once you see the team sheet come out without any explanation, you're kind of thinking the worst. I mean, I was very confident this week that we was going to beat Man United, but when I saw that we didn't have Saka, my confidence kind of dropped a little bit. I mean, I didn't think that Tierney was going to make it, to be honest. I think hopefully he's back for the Wolves game, I want to say. Yeah, Wolves is the next game.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's back for the Wolves game. But I didn't think that he was going to make this team or this game because there was no kind of talk about him. Usually there's like a little hype and there was nothing coming from Arsenal. Saka was a strange one. I think they kept that very quiet because obviously They didn't want to give Man United a bit any information, but yeah, him missing from the squad, I think it really affected us today. Just in case of his presence, I think once he's on the team, I think even opposition think, shit, what are we going to do? How are we going to play against him? And I think he also, because he's in a rich vein of form as well, he gives the team a boost and other players around him sort of play better. And not to say that we didn't play bad, but I just think that things that he does, the runs that he would make was kind of missing today. And that sort of link up that he does with Lacazette and Emile Smith-Rowe, I think definitely was missing today.
Yeah, and I think the other one that I'd say about Saka is it meant that Nicolas Pepe had to then play on the right to replace him, and that was one that I thought, to be honest, if I didn't have to think about our starting lineup, I thought we'd just go straight in with what we played on Tuesday. Basically, I didn't think anybody needed to come out or nobody needed to come in from that performance because it looked so well-rounded. But obviously, yeah, Saka coming in meant Pepe was then pushed out to the right. And I think that's where we saw some of the... I say Pepe looked better than I think it's probably one of his best games on the right-hand side for us in general, because he still looked very energetic, looked great on the ball, which is something we haven't really seen, and aggressive in his play as well.
Definitely, he looked confident, and I think, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Luke Shaw, I think this season has quite improved. He looks fitter, and he's not playing too badly. So to play up against Luke Shaw, who has been playing quite well, we have to be honest. I think he's done quite well playing against him, and I think you're right. I think he's got a little confidence now. I think that game against Southampton and that goal is amazing what goals can do for you. And like usually, he would play with his head down, and you could see him like getting physically frustrated. But today he didn't. Today he was taking on players and taking on Maguire and taking on Luke Shaw and trying to curl it in. And we'll talk about obviously some of his chances later. But he did look confident today, and I felt that was a really good thing. Obviously, I think if Saka is fit, he plays on the left-hand side. Sorry, I don't think Martinelli starts this game if Saka's fit. But he didn't have a bad game today. Like Pepe, I think he, like you said, one of his best games we've seen in a while, and we'll see what happens in the future. But yeah, today I don't have any complaints about him. Well, maybe one he should have passed it and maybe should have scored. But apart from that, no, he done well today. Yeah,
and I think the only player in that kind of front four for me in the first half that struggled was Martinelli. He looked, for me, incredibly rusty, which is kind of fair enough, I suppose, when he hasn't played in, 3 games for us and coming off an injury as well. What did you think of his performance? I think he had some great moments where he intercepted. I think it was a pass into Rashford. He got in there because Cedric had come in, but then, turned it over right towards the end of the first half and United nearly scored.
Yeah, I think that same with you, Josh. I think that he just looked rusty. He looked like he needed a few warm-up games, and I would mention it later about why he came off. But I think that interception for Rashford was absolutely brilliant. Defensive today was quite good, and I think just before that, I don't know if you heard it. You heard, I think I saw Twitter, I think it was Chris, saying that Odegaard and Solskjaer was saying to Rashford, take him on, he can't defend. Like they run at him, and he literally 2 seconds later he does that. So he done well as well to play against Rashford, because Rashford's obviously a very tricky character. So him and Cedric played well, but today you could definitely tell he wasn't the normal Martinelli. There was something a little bit rusty about him, but he had a chance as well. Sort of in the first half when he took on Wan-Bissaka, and he managed to get past him, but obviously it didn't come to fruition. But yeah, he just looks like he needs a couple of games, and he might start against Wolves depending on Saka injury and how bad it is. But yeah, hopefully more games he plays, the better he gets.
Yeah, and I think that pass into Lacazette from Martinelli, I think that was one of the best chances we had, where Lacazette was having so much joy running off Maguire's shoulder and into the box. It was a shame that he couldn't get on the end of it, but I think overall, as I kind of said, he was incredibly rusty in that game, and you could see it. Well, I suppose before we go into who came on in the second half, there is another one or incident I want to mention, and that would be about Bruno Fernandes and the raking down the back of Granit Xhaka's leg.
So what I have a problem with is that VAR looked at it. So they obviously knew that there was something wrong with it, but they chose to do nothing about it. Like, what I don't understand is, what is it they saw in that they thought that was totally okay? And we could, Josh, you and I and everybody else could go and talk about VAR and the good and the bad points about it. But that's what VAR was there for incidents like that. And I hate to do this, miss, but tell. But I just feel that if that was Granit Xhaka on Bruno Fernandes, I honestly, I'm not just saying this, I honestly think Xhaka would be getting sent off. Or at least a yellow card.
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the things that is annoying for me with VAR is how, if it wasn't a red, at least get the referee to go over to the monitor and have a look at it, so you can at least give a yellow. But there's something about, VAR won't look into yellow card incidents, so it's either it's a red or it isn't a red. And it seems to be there's that kind of gap where, you know what, that's actually a yellow card. He should be booked for that. And, first watching through, I thought he was already on a yellow card with the incident he had early on with Cedric.
No, he wasn't. He didn't get one. Which is, again, how did he not get one? It's just, I hate moaning about another team. I really do, because I think it's pointless. But Manchester United do get away with so much, and today it just goes to show how much they got away with. And I'm not going to say that the referee was bad today, because I think he was. I honestly think it's quite even. But I think today that Bruno Fernandes, well, it has to be minimum a yellow card. Or how is that not a red? I would love to know the thought process of the referee to say, oh, no, it was totally fine. Maybe because Granit Xhaka didn't roll around on the floor and cry about it, he just got up. And I think, like I said, if it was the other way around, Bruno Fernandes would probably still be rolling around now, and it definitely wouldn't have been a card. But you know what? It's
Yeah, I think I'd come in and completely agree in terms of, I thought Michael Oliver reffed the game fairly in terms of fouls given and decisions in terms of offsides. There were some corner decisions that he got incorrect, but you kind of take those, and as long as we don't concede from him, I'm not that angry. The thing that kind of got me was the distribution of cards. I think he could have improved massively on that. There were a couple of incidents in the second half where I think a yellow card should have come out sooner. Pogba ended up getting a yellow card for the same foul that Cavani had done 5 minutes earlier, and Cavani didn't get a yellow with that, just clipping the back of Xhaka's legs. But I think let's kind of talk about our players as well. One player that kind of going into the second half as well would be Thomas Partey. I can see there's a lot of stick for him there. His passing, part of his game mainly. What do you think to his kind of performance today?
I said in the group when we was watching the game that I thought his passing was not the best today. There was times when he gave the ball away just outside of our area, and it caused Man United to attack. And I think that maybe he's rusty too. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's been out for a long time, and then he's thrown into 3 games, and maybe he's just at the moment not up to where he was. Doesn't necessarily say he was bad, because I don't think he was bad, but his passing definitely wasn't the normal passing or what we're used to. And I think maybe he just needs to get fitter and just know how the team plays. I think I don't want to write someone off after one game and say, oh, he was shit, he's rubbish, blah, blah, blah. He's been out for a very long time and he just needs time to adjust to get back into the team and to build that partnership with Granit Xhaka. But yeah, the passing today was, it wasn't good at all. I'm not going to stand here and say, oh yeah, it was good or it was bad. He wasn't good today and he needs to improve on that. But I'm going to put that down to maybe just a little bit of rust on him. And obviously he just needs to get that rust off.
Yeah, and I'd say, however bad he was in that game, at no point was I calling for him to be taken off and Elneny to come on.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Which I think that's what everybody would kind of agree, that although he wasn't great, were you taking him off? And if you were, who were you bringing on for him? Because the only option was Elneny, really,
or Willock, and you're not really going to play Willock out of you at the moment. But yeah, he didn't have the best game today, but. We go again against Wolves on, I want to say Tuesday, but that's all it is. For me, he just needs to a little get taking used to how this team plays, and he's got to build that partnership with Granit Xhaka, and it's going to happen throughout the season. Not everyone can play a 10 out of 10 game. Some days you're going to have a bad game, and this was just his bad game. Hopefully he has a 10 out of 10 game against Wolves, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Should we mention kind of the first half? Was there anything else that really happened there? I can't think of anything major.
No, we had a few chances, and so did Manchester United. It's a very slow start, I think, and I think obviously it was a little bit tit for tat to see what team would do what. I think there was one chance for Rashford where he sort of got beyond the defender, and I think it was really good that he sidestepped. I think it was Cedric, and Leno came out, made himself really big, and he couldn't get a shot on that goal, which I think was really, really good of Leno. He didn't do much; he just literally put him off, which was absolutely brilliant, and prevented a goal. And we had chances as well in the first half. I think there were some passes that we didn't pick, and I think passing was bad on the whole team today. I think there were so many chances that we easily could have put someone through, and we just chose not to, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, the first half just ended kind of with a whimper.
Yeah, I think we've got a question from Thomas from Norway as well, who's asked, was it a tactical decision to play more defensively in the first half, or were United just better? And I think, for me, it all changes when they take McTominay off, who had the bad case of the shits, I think. I think that's a requirement of a Scottish midfielder at United for the past couple of decades. They've got to have a bowel problem at some point and go off. But... I think Pogba coming into the middle completely changed that first half for them.
It opened the game up a little bit, I think, because if Pogba in the middle, he's playing inside with Fred. Fred is not the best. I don't know how he gets into the Manchester United team. I really don't. But I feel that it opened the game up a little bit. And even with Martial coming on, I felt that more space was created, so that gave sort of Elneny. He got Elneny on the brain. Sorry, Partey and Granit Xhaka more space to kind of roam about, and Emile Smith-Rowe as well, because I felt like Emile Smith-Rowe definitely grew into the game when that change happened for Manchester United.
Yeah, there was more space for him, I think, because there was less kind of a cover for that back four, as Pogba kind of left to maraud around the field as he does. But yeah, second half, we have our own change as well at half-time, with Martinelli coming off and Willian coming on. What was your first thought when you saw Willian getting ready to come on the sideline?
Probably the same as yours, Josh. Literally, what the fuck? But listen, there's a reason why Mikel Arteta gets paid the money he gets paid to manage Arsenal. Would I have taken off Martinelli at halftime? No. Would I have given him a couple minutes? Yeah, I probably would have. But, that's the reason he gets paid the money he does. And, yeah, my thoughts were is Martinelli injured? But I think it was straight tactical. He wasn't injured at all. It was straight tactical.
Yeah, I thought Martinelli wasn't great in that first half, but he wasn't sub him for Willian bad kind of way. But then when he came on, it kind of made sense more to me. Like, I'm more kind of like the same as you, trying to justify it to myself without hearing what Arteta said on the case. But for me, Martinelli, again, hasn't played many games, didn't look fully sharp, and maybe 45 minutes was all he had in his locker. The difference of giving him an extra 15 minutes, take him up to the 60-minute mark, I'm a bit like, well, doesn't really... Wasn't something I was almost prepared to do necessarily. I mean, if Saka was on the bench, it'd be a straight swap for me. That's kind of what I would have done at half-time. Willian coming on, though, I thought he looked all right when he came on against Southampton midweek. Like, he looked a bit more lively. I think I said on the show after, he looked better as a sub than as a player that starts a game. Like, if you bring him on, there's something about the pace of the game. He settles to it better if he comes into a game that's already had the pace kind of set. And I thought today he looked all right as well. What did you make of his performance?
Dare I say he was actually okay? He wasn't bad.
I don't want to bridge over okay either.
No, he wasn't brilliant, but he wasn't bad. He was a 7, I guess, out of 10. He came on. He was very direct. I thought that Arteta's instruction was run at Wan-Bissaka, like get at him. I thought that was literally the instruction, because that's what he did. He was staying wide and then drifting in and getting behind Wan-Bissaka and trying to link up with Smith Rowe and Lacazette. So he wasn't terrible. He wasn't brilliant. I mean, we can talk about the chance now, I guess. And I feel that, I don't know why, I feel that Martinelli and I feel Martinelli and also Aubameyang put that chance away.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I feel that they both scored. I think it was a really soft effort. I think he tried for placement rather than power. And I feel like if he had shot harder, I feel that that's a goal.
Yeah, I think we're going to go on to our other winger and his rather tame shots as well later, when he has a kind of a chance to bury a couple, really. But I think before then, we have the Lacazette free kick. And for me, that's... Is it too harsh to say that should have been 1-0? Like, we should have scored from that free kick.
Yeah, that free kick should have gone in. It really... Yeah, we should have. It was inches, wasn't it? Like literally inches, and it's harsh that it didn't go in. It's really harsh it didn't go in, and you know, like I said, has got that in his locker because he has scored free kicks before. But I thought I was on like talking to Danny at the time, and I was like, "Oh, that you scored!" And literally, when I saw it bounce out, I was like, for God's sake, like it was just annoying it didn't go in rather than anything else. And yeah, just a little bit pissed.
Yeah, he hits it so well. And so for anybody that didn't see it, it's a short free kick in terms of direct. It's only just outside the box after Lacazette does really well to win a foul from Maguire as well. But gets it perfectly up and over the wall. I think instinctively, I thought Xhaka was going to take it. The way he was kind of lined up to him, he was very purposeful with how he was setting up to it. Him and Pepe were having a joke about, I'm the lefty that's going to take this, not you. We've seen Xhaka score from that kind of distance as well. I'm thinking Crystal Palace last season and that kind of position as well. But then when Lacazette hits it, I think even De Gea doesn't imagine it. He doesn't expect it. Doesn't expect a right footer to put it into that corner. He's expecting, something nice and curled over the top from Xhaka. And yeah, it's one of those that bounces on the underside of the bar and then doesn't go your way, which is just so irritating because I think at that point we completely deserve it. We're on top for that entirety of that second half, and we deserve to go into the lead. But from there, we then kind of have these bitty chances as Man U kind of get back on the front foot. So what do you think of the chances we created afterwards, and how the performance of Smith Rowe was as well? Because I think there's some people saying that he wasn't that great today.
No, he didn't have his best game. I mean, I don't think anybody had their best game. If they did, we would have won that game. I think that Smith Rowe was maybe a little bit tired. And I know he came off against Southampton, but maybe, he's a guy that's gone from the first half of the season playing all under 23 football, and he's been thrown into sort of first team action in the second half of the season, and he's doing a lot of running. I think Emile Smith Rowe covers some ground. Like, I'd love to see the stats if you're listening, Danny, if you got them, to see how much ground Emile Smith Rowe actually covers. But no, he didn't have his best game, and I feel that the link up, I think he was missing Saka, because I think with him and Saka, there's almost like an unwritten understanding, and they know exactly what they're going to do with each other. And I think that him not being there kind of affected him just a little bit more, because Pepe is very unpredictable. Like, you never know with Pepe what he's going to do. 1 minute he's going to be very brilliant, and the next minute he's going to be just mad. But I don't think Smith Rowe was terrible today. Like, I wouldn't want to, in the words of you, Josh, I wouldn't have put on Joe Willock for Emile Smith Rowe. He was good enough to stay on the pitch, but obviously we've got our deputy that came on, and we'll talk about him later. But yeah, the second half, we had some chances. That there was a Willian chance. There was a Lacazette chance, a Pepe chance where he shot straight at Maguire. And I felt that we was on top, and I felt that because we didn't score from those opportunities, it's almost like the longer the game went on, you think to yourself, what are we going to do? Like, are we actually going to win this game? Because all of the best chances we're not putting away. And then you start, in the back of your mind, you start thinking, oh, am I not going to grab this like 89th minute Bruno Fernandes penalty? Like, you start thinking the worst, don't you?
Yeah, it looked like, I think, to be honest, for the whole game, it never looked like United were going to carve us open with a decent bit of phase of play. It was all going to be about a special moment, like, as you say, like someone diving in the box and Bruno Fernandes putting away the penalty, or a Pogba free kick from 40 yards out. It never seemed like they were going to do something to us, like with any kind of effect. It was going to be that kind of moment. And that's where I think it differed for us. It looked like we were actually trying to play that whenever we attacked, it looked like we could create a chance rather than looking for that little bit of magic out of somebody. We were finding our way in behind, and we were just really just not, what's the word I'm looking for? Prolific enough. We just needed to be a lot better with our shots. And the thing about Pepe's chances, I think he got in amazingly. It's just the way, for me, the way he hits the ball for those chances. It's a bit like watching Henry in his pomp, where he'd come so far out and then he'd just bend it in the bottom corner. And I think it's great if you kind of place it and you don't put a lot of pace on the ball and it nestles in that corner. It looks great. But if you miss, everybody is going, just put your laces through it. And I think for Pepe at the moment, it's still one of those. It's just like, mate, we know you've got it in your locker, that you can absolutely twat a football if you want to. And we just didn't see those kind of attempts from him. It was very much he knows his game and he was trying to, get through it. But it was really unfortunate with our finishing. And I think, as you say, Saka might be putting one of those in. I think if we have Aubameyang in the side and one of those chances falls to him, I'm thinking especially like Martinelli or Willian at the back post, both their chances Aubameyang scores. It was that kind of problem of where we're at now, is that we've got these players that couldn't necessarily convert. And I don't think we gave Lacazette the right service into his feet to give him that opportunity, because he is the most kind of potent finisher we had in that side, to really, get a decent shot on target.
Yeah, I think definitely it just shows how important Saka is to our squad, because I felt like both Lacazette and Emile Smith-Rowe sort of suffered with Saka not being there because the runs that he makes. And I feel that maybe I honestly think that you think we had 3 first teamers missing in Tierney, Saka, and Aubameyang, and I feel if those 3 play, we win that game, and I think we win that game very easily, because Man United didn't really have anything to offer. You're right what you're saying, that the one at the back post with Willian, definitely Aubameyang puts that away 100%. He puts that away. So there are opportunities there, and you think if Pepe does play or is on the other side, then the opportunities that he has to get at Wan-Bissaka, because Wan-Bissaka wasn't very, very good today either. Saka getting at Saka definitely getting at Shaw. I think that happens as well, and I think he makes a meal out of Luke Shaw, and then Lacazette has that link-up play with also Saka, and then also Aubameyang as well. So yeah, it's just unfortunate we had 3 first teamers out, and who to say what kind of havoc that Tierney would have caused. So it's a draw against the team that's currently in second place. So when you look at it on that sort of side, you look at it and think it's not too bad. We drew against the second place team, but it hurts more knowing that we could and maybe should have won that game.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one other thing that, as we say, we know that they're currently second, but we also know we are better than this Man United side. We have beaten them this season already. I know it was only a 1-0, but again, we knew how to get past this side, and Arteta has said he's never, he's never lost to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So it's not something that it's like a hoodoo for us to beat this Man United side. But for me, it was frustrating because I always want to beat United. And I think if we'd got 6 points from the 2 games that we had against them this season, that would have been great to do the double over them. I think it was the first time since 06-07.
Yeah, it would have been nice to. I think it would have been. I think for me, I grew up in an era of the Arsenal-Manchester United rivalry. I mean, Tottenham would always be, the derby and the team that you hate the most. But for me, the era that I grew up in, Manchester United were the second team that you hated. They were the team that you couldn't stand, and then obviously with the emergence of Twitter, they're fans as well. I follow quite a few Man United fans, and they're just almost as bad as Liverpool fans. It must be something about living in the northeast region, but it's just, that's my rivalry, and that's the game that we always want to win against Tottenham, and then I always want to win against Manchester United. And it's a shame that we couldn't beat them today, because I felt that we were good enough. I felt that we were much better, and I feel that if we had our 3 personnel that were missing, we beat them hands down.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't say I was biased, but obviously I'm currently saying this on an Arsenal-themed podcast that I think we completely deserved to win that game today. I don't think United really deserved to take a point out of it, to be honest. And when they asked Gary Neville on Sky Sports if any team deserved to win the game, I think he was very much a bit like, he didn't think United deserved to lose, which you tend to mean United deserved to lose in that one. He's got to protect them. I think in terms of questions from the chat box, if there are any, make sure you get them in. Stick a little Q in at the beginning so we can spot them a little earlier, a little easier. But I think there's one here that I'm going to say it's from Rudy Rastos. It's not really, it's more of a statement, but I think we can talk from it. that says it was a tactical decision for why he subbed Martinelli off and brought Willian on half time. And for me, I can kind of get where he's at, because bringing Willian on allowed us to rotate that kind of three behind the striker a little bit more. You know how we saw against Southampton, we had Pepe, we had Saka and Smith Rowe all interchanging, and Pepe was coming up on the left, and when he did, he looked great. I think for Martinelli, he's not as adaptable in the same way that you wouldn't expect to see Martinelli pop up in central play positions, and you wouldn't expect him to crop up on the right-hand side. So at least with Willian, is we can bring him across and move him around a bit more. And we did see Pepe coming into that kind of left channel a little bit more. I think Willian was still out there, but I think it made us a bit more tactically kind of loose in that way. I
think we were trying to get at Man United a little bit more. I don't think, I mean, with Manchester United, they're always a threat of Martial and Rashford. They are very, very quick. And Paul Pogba can always pick out a pass. And I think I don't get the hype over Bruno Fernandes. I truly don't. I'm not saying this from an Arsenal bias. I just don't think he's that good. I think he scores a lot of penalties and free kicks, but I don't think, as a footballer, I don't think he's that good. And I promise you, I'm not trying to be biased, but I don't think they had that much of a threat. I think that Bellerin had Martial under control, and I think, as you know, special shout out to Cedric as well, because Cedric as well, I think, handled Rashford very well today. And obviously, as always, Cavani is always that slippery character. His movement is brilliant. That's one thing I noticed today, that his movement is very, very good. I guess that's why he got so many goals in the Farmers League. But like, I feel that his movement is very well, and he finds his pocket of spaces, and he just literally behind players, and you think, oh shit, where did he go? But yeah, I don't think that Man United offered much today, and I feel that, yeah, do you know what? This one hurts. Don't you feel that, Josh? That this one hurts, that we could and should have won this game, and it just feels like you said at the top of the program, it's 2 points lost rather than 1 point gained.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there was, on Fernandes, I think we dealt with his threat superbly well. I think Cavani, I'm never fully threatened when Cavani's playing against us, because you know he needs a million chances before he puts one away. He's a bit like the Uruguayan Danny Welbeck, I think, because you don't normally see him as a threat, but then you know he puts one in from 40. You know, he scores a bicycle kick from out of nowhere, but will miss a sitter, and he missed a couple against us. But again, whenever he ended up getting in, I wasn't fully worried. Like that chance right at the death, I think it was Femi, or was it yourself in our WhatsApp group that was like, this is the smash and grab coming up here, was when they just managed to get through us with a cross, and him and Martial got, caught up with each other whilst he's trying to put away a bicycle kick. And even at that point, I'm slightly worried, but not fully. I just don't get that threat from Cavani, because I know how many chances it takes him to put away a goal. But what? Yeah, I suppose generally with the game, it's kind of frustrating rather than anything. It shows how well we've kind of grown in the last 5 weeks. That we're at this point now where we think we should be beating Man United hands down. But I think let's talk about one player as well before we kind of get to the general questions about the game, and that's about the debutant as well. We'll have to go with the various, I think 50 Shades of saying his name. Martin Odegaard or Martin Odegaard, depending on which part of his pronunciation video you want to take, or a combination of either. Karl, what did you reckon to him coming on?
He didn't, for as much as debuts go, he had a few good touches. Yeah. He was trying to press from the front. He was definitely trying to harass the defenders. He didn't do anything good, didn't do anything bad. If it was just obviously a debut, I think obviously he might maybe start. No, I don't think he starts against Wolves on Tuesday. I think maybe that's a bit early, but it depends on how. It does depend on how Emile Smith-Rowe is. I know it's Saturday, Tuesday, but Emile Smith-Rowe, you need to manage him. So maybe it may be too many games too quickly for Emile Smith-Rowe, because we've got another game away to Aston Villa. So I think that's probably more the game you're looking out for against Villa rather than Wolves. I think Wolves at the moment, they're not playing that well, are they? So yeah, I think as far as debuts go, it wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was just very, very middle of the road.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with that. There were like little touches and stuff. You knew that we'd got in a talented player. There was enough from his first touch. You know there was a decent player in there. But I think it's all about giving him minutes. You know, he hasn't played any kind of real decent run of football this season, thanks to Zidane keeping him on the bench for most of it. So I think we still got to build him up, and he's certainly got a part to play, especially with Saka being out injured. That if he's going to come in, he's going to be the kind of player to help us, and we can see some flashes from him. But you know what, we signed him, what was it, 2 days ago, 3 days ago? He barely knows any of that forward line yet to start, you know, knowing their runs. And I think there's more to come from him, and it's just nice to see, you know, we've got an option that we can bring on in that kind of area that isn't Brazilian and doesn't have an afro. And, you know.
Yeah, I think that he just needs minutes. It's a shame that we're not in the FA Cup anymore or the League Cup, because he obviously definitely would have been in there. And I don't think there's many sort of games that you can just get him to blood in, because anyone can beat anyone at a moment in the Premier League. I'm not too sure whether he's registered for Europe. I would assume that he is. So maybe when we play in the Europa League, he gets a game there.
Yeah, I think we've got until the end of, well, it's the end of the window that you really submit your, your squads for Europe again. And I imagine in the next coming days, we'll have a few more players going out so that we can make space for the likes of him in the team. We'll go to questions as well. We have one from Mike Hertz, who is a YouTube member for 2 months for us as well. Do you think that Saka should have played through the soreness, or do you back the decision that, you know, he wasn't in? He wasn't in today. He was rested.
No, this is not the game that you go for Saka. I think you've got to look at the teams in and around us. So I would rather him not play today and play against Wolves and play against Aston Villa. So if you need to keep him out today, then that's fine with me. And there's no playing through any pain, because you could just aggravate it. If you can rest someone and then bring them back in, you know, games are coming thick and fast at the moment, and we need our best players. I'd much rather him miss this game and be able to play 2 or 3 games rather than play this game and then miss 2 or 3 games. So, definitely not play through the pain.
Yeah, and I think we also learned from, or the club has learned rather than we, that especially with Thomas Partey in the North London derby, is bringing a player in and trying to get them back either when they're carrying an injury or coming back from an injury, that it's not necessarily a good idea. And you know what? We were a coat of paint on the crossbar away from winning against Man United without Saka in the squad. So it shows kind of how he is an important player to us, but the players on the pitch should have got it done as well. Yeah, we have another question from Avon Teddington about another person, another absentee. How concerned should we be with Tierney's absence? Do you think he's carrying something?
Tierney's very injury prone anyway. He has been from his Celtic days, and probably still is a little bit. I think that there's obviously, but he was in training, so he was definitely training in the training pictures from yesterday. So he's training with the first team. So maybe he's just one game away from coming back. And again, I don't think we should rush people back as long as we got adequate replacements. And Cedric, for me, is an adequate replacement because he played quite well at left back. So that's okay. But I just want to make sure that when Tierney comes back, he's fully fit, not just half fit and just rushing him back, because that's when you get more injuries.
Yeah, and I think it's needs must, and it wasn't a needs must in terms of getting Cedric out of the side to bring in Tierney to kind of replace him. And I kind of get that he does seem to be a bit injury prone. I'd say the injuries he has had while he's been at us anyway have been very, very different. He turned up with a shoulder injury, then he came back from it and ended up dislocating his shoulder again. And now he's out with a calf injury. And, I'm not a great, physiotherapist or even a physiotherapist at all. But, calf and shoulders are definitely different parts of the body. I can confirm that.
Just about, yeah.
Heard it here first, that shoulders and calves, they are different parts of the body. Not necessarily related, although, yeah. We have a question as well from Chris Lodato. When KT does return, do you expect Hector to sit out for Cedric, or do you think Cedric just replaces, Cedric comes, is it like for like, Cedric comes off and Tierney comes in, or do you think Bellerin comes off and Cedric takes his place?
No, I think it's like for like. I don't think Cedric has been played, in the 3 games that he's played, he hasn't played bad. But I think that Bellerin at the moment, he's not playing the best, but I don't think you drop him. I don't think he's droppable at the moment. Maybe some days you may rotate him, but for me, the fullbacks will be Bellerin, and then also there'll be Kieran Tierney.
Yeah, I completely agree. It should be Tierney and Bellerin. The only reason I'd take Bellerin out would be to rotate him with Cedric rather than dropping him for any particular reason.
Yeah.
I don't think he was bad today either. I think he got lucky a couple of times in terms of when he was trying to play out from the back and he got some lucky bounces off players, but I'm not that worried with his performances at all. It's not something I'd be looking at. We've how many? Was it 6 clean sheets this since January or since the beginning of the year?
5 and 6. So, yeah,
5 and 6, and he's the right back in that. It's not something I'd really look to mess around with at the moment.
No,
you can kind of stick with
team settled. Yeah. So because the team settled, you kind of, and also you want that relationship to blossom between Saka and also Saka Bellerin. And Bellerin. Yeah. So they could get an understanding as well. So I think that's definitely something that we've got to try and blossom and get them to flourish. I think sometimes we're too quick to just take people out the squad for no reason. Squads have relationships, just like when when Saka and Lacazette was having that conversation when the Southampton game, and Saka was saying, I was talked to Lacazette and I said, you can find me, like, just hit the ball to that side and I'll make those runs. And he did it. So, those sort of things take time to blossom and take time to develop, and we can't just keep chopping and changing for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like we've seen with Gabriel, we thought he was absolutely superb when he first came into the side, and I know he's coming back from COVID, but he hasn't exactly been thrown straight back into this defence. We kind of kept it settled, especially with Rob Holding in there. David Luiz coming in. Now that Pablo Mari's out injured, I think, it's all about little changes at the moment. We have a question from Don1 as well. This one is on Ainsley, Maitland-Niles, and I think because this is going to be the last show before transfer deadline day, which is tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. It's Monday. It's 1st of February. At 11 o'clock, I think it'll be worth we cover some of these kind of transfer window questions as well.
You can do that.
Yeah, do you think it's time for AMN to move on?
Probably. I think it's kind of shown that Arteta doesn't fancy him because he's not played. I mean, he played one game at left back and he didn't have the best game. I think from then Arteta's kind of dropped him. Unfortunately, there isn't a space in the squad because he's not going to play in midfield. That's just it. He's not going to play in midfield. So obviously, he's not going to. At the moment, if we got Kieran, Tierney, Hector, Bellerin, and Cedric, that for me is enough cover at fullback. Because you're talking about you're now the fourth choice fullback for either side. So. Yeah, I just think that he done well in the last sort of the back end of last season. He was the go-to person because Tierney wasn't there when he was playing three at the back. But now he there's no space for him in the squad, unfortunately. So it's just he's got to go out on loan. And I think there was reports that a lower Premier League club wanted him, and I think I think it was West Brom. And we've said no because we want him to play a style of football that, he's not in a relegation dogfight. He's actually playing a style of football that he's kind of used to. And I think there was kind of hints around him going to Southampton, and that would maybe free up Ryan Bertrand coming. I mean, I don't want Ryan Bertrand at all. I'll be very honest with you. I think if we signed Ryan Bertrand, he's old. What is he, 28? Sorry, was he 29? 30, something along those lines.
He's 31. 31, Ryan Bertrand. He's older than everyone thinks.
So if we can't, he's obviously going to want a 3-year contract at stupid money. We've had enough doing that now, and I think we got to stop doing that. So I don't know how true the rumors are, or sort of that we're going after Ryan Bertrand, but if they are true, I hope that we don't get him because we're sick of spunking money on 31-year-olds. Thank you, Don One. I don't think so. From Ryan Bertrand's point of view, I don't know how true the rumours are that we're targeting him, but what I do know from the Southampton point of view is he's very close to signing a new contract, and the only thing that he's umming and ahhing about is about how many years are on it. He doesn't want to be a coach there. That's one thing that I have seen some people claiming, that Bertrand wants to be a coach. He doesn't. He wants to be an agent. He's already said a couple of times he wants to work really so closely with Southampton, and he wants to be an agent. So he's looking to do that. And I think the only thing that they're umming and ahhing about is they're fine on everything. It's just the length of his contract. They've sorted out the money stuff. So I wonder if it's just really, almost like agent talk to try and speed up Southampton. It's just to say, he wants to go out. Someone else is interested, speed up and, give my client that extra 1 year. We've been used for it before. How many times have agents linked to play one of their clients to Arsenal only for them to sign a new contract instead? Did brilliant get a new contract out of Leicester out of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think on Maitland-Niles, I completely agree that he shouldn't go to West Brom. If he went to West Brom and they played him in midfield where he says he wants to play, it'd be great. He'll look great in a West Brom side because he won't be asked to do a lot of passing. And I think that's the part of his game that he needs to improve on. Takes a superb penalty. We can't disagree on that. Progresses with the ball really well. Great at dribbling. Good at defending. I wouldn't say great at defending. but his biggest weakness for me is his passing. And if you want to be a midfielder, especially at Arsenal, your passing has to be superb. And it's not a kind of position I want us to be trialing players in to learn how to pass well, is in our team at the moment. So if he can get to a Southampton, where I understand he won't be first choice, he's got to break his way into that side as well. But I think once he's in, he'd stay in it. It would take more than one dodgy performance for him to drop out of that side. So yeah, I'll be interested. There were words, I think Ornstein had said that there's a top 4 side linked with him, which for me would say, depending at the time of when he was writing that tweet versus when he published it, was either definitely Leicester or maybe West Ham as a potential destination for him. But I don't know. They both seem kind of logical, and I think he needs to go out on a loan. If we could get a decent fee for him, I'm talking north of 20 million, I'd kind of snap anybody's hand off for that at the moment.
Do you think it's worth that now? Do you think his price would have gone down from the summer because he hasn't played that much and he hasn't played well? I mean, like we said, towards the back end of last season, he was brilliant, arguably behind Aubameyang, our best player. But obviously now, I think that his value's definitely depreciated because he hasn't played, and the games that he has played, he hasn't looked very good at.
Yeah, I think the only thing that might help us is the new Brexit rules, and that the English premium is now even higher because of those things, that you can't necessarily bring in players or young players in from youth academy level and get them as homegrown. Like we've got the likes of Bellerin. Like we couldn't do that deal anymore. Get a player in who's under 16 into your youth academy. Yeah. And so English questions are going to be all right. And they're going to have that kind of premium against them.
Yeah. Speaking of other English players, it's someone we haven't seen for quite a while, which is Reiss Nelson. He hasn't been on the bench even for a while. What do you think happens with him?
I mean, I would say fair play to him during the summer that he said to Arteta, no, thanks for sorting me out with a loan, but actually I want to stay here and fight for my place. That's a great mentality to have, that you want to fight for your place, but I think he should have been better advised generally and say, no, look at it really. You're not going to get more than 5 games in this team over an entire season. Unless you hit the ground running, you displace Pepe or Willian, but then Martinelli's going to come back. Aubameyang's still going to be playing on the left flank as well. There's not really a chance for you here. You should go out on loan and it would serve you better. And yeah, I think it's one of those which he just needs game time now. And I don't think it really matters at what level. If it's at high level championship side or a low level Premier League side, I think something that's open, something that's attacking and gives him an opportunity to just get minutes. I think that's what he needs at the moment now. And yeah, I think before the end of the window, we will see him somewhere else, basically.
Yeah, I think it's very telling that he hasn't even been in the squad at all. He didn't even make the squad for the Southampton game in the FA Cup. I don't know if he's carrying an injury. I think the club have kind of communicated that, but yeah, he's telling that he hasn't been anywhere near the squads as of late. What do you think of Willock as well? Do you think he needs to go out, or do you think he's safe in the squad at the moment as a backup?
For me, I would happily back whatever Arteta decided to do with Willock, because I think he could learn a lot from training with Thomas Partey every day. And if he didn't go out on loan, I don't think that would be a huge problem. The other side of it is that, you know what, give him game time and he can improve that way as well. And that would be something. So yeah, I'm a bit kind of on the fence. If we can find a loan move for Willock, amazing. But if we can't, we can't.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think he does need to play games though, and I wouldn't be so quick to get rid of sort of every single player just because it's Arsenal and we have injuries. We all get injuries and we know it's going to happen. So I would kind of like to. I would probably want to keep Willock, if I'm honest, just as a squad player. Play him in some of the the lower league games, or when we've got a game where we're 2-0 up, and you can kind of bring players off and rest them. So yeah, I'd definitely keep him in and around the squads. Okay, going on to the which I think is quite funny, which on paper it makes sense, but in your head you're thinking what? And that's Mustafi going to Liverpool. I mean, there's a lot of talk about it, and obviously it's just talk. But on paper, Josh, don't you think it makes sense for Liverpool at the moment are really desperate for defenders, like real desperate. They're playing, their captain who is a centre midfielder and another centre midfielder at centre back. Whilst they're doing okay, I think they do need an out and out defender. I mean, all three of their defenders, Matip, Gomez and Van Dijk, they're all out quite long term. Mustafi, it makes sense let's be real. I don't think it's going to cost more than 2 million to get Mustafi, if that. I think Arsenal will probably take 1.5. He's looking for a new club, and if he said to Mustafi, we'll give you a 2-year deal, I'm sure he takes it against Liverpool to play with Liverpool. He takes that 2-year deal. Yes, it may be his last deal, but I'm sure he takes that. So if you're Liverpool, without your Arsenal head on, you're Liverpool, do you go for Mustafi?
If I'd watched him at Arsenal, I'd probably, there'd be a lot of my own Twitter feed I'd have to go through and probably delete quite a few tweets about watching Mustafi in an Arsenal shirt. But under Arteta, I don't think Mustafi's been that bad generally, and I think he's been a serviceable, centre back for us. I mean, he's not. The fact that he's not in the squad doesn't upset me, and the fact is, if he was in the team, it wouldn't upset me either at the moment. He's kind of in there for me, but him going to Liverpool, I don't know. It's just something I can't see them doing it.
Your headset's a bit fuzzy, Josh.
Oh, sorry.
Is this hot?
No, you're very roboty.
Oh no. Just give me a second and I'll plug in my headset.
All right, I'll take over. So I think, Acevedo just scored. For me, if I'm Liverpool, I honestly do say to him, I'll give him a 2.5-year deal. You're not going to pay him the world, because you literally say to him, you are only here as a stopgap. So you say, and at the moment, I think any club or any player is going to need a club. There's no guarantees that Mustafi, the way the world is at the moment, and with COVID and clubs losing money hand over fist, there's no club that's going to give you the payday that you want. I think those days have kind of gone. So if a team like Liverpool, who you get to remain in England, not in London, but you get to remain in England, so you don't have to really uproot your whole family, come in and they give you a 2.5-year deal, I think you take it. Mustafi's not the best, but he's a cheap option at the moment for them. And then if you got a defender, then that frees up you not playing Jordan Henderson and Fabinho at centre back.
Yeah, let's see how this goes. Is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
Woohoo! Yeah, it's my headset. It overheated a little bit. Probably all the nonsense I was talking into it and all the hot air. The question is on that relocation. I think last time we were hearing about Mustafi wanted to leave, it was he wanted to return to Germany. And I don't think you kind of change that mentality or that thought. So I wonder if he's still looking for a club in Germany to take him. But if Liverpool want to take him and it's for maybe half a season, or, you know, if there's not something coming from Germany yet, he can go, okay, I'll settle down 18 months and I look again in the summer or look again in January of next year to try and move on and get that, relocate back to Germany. That's the only question. I think he'd still have to do some kind of uprooting if he did go to Liverpool because, you know, it's not a commutable distance, let's put it that way.
No, but it's probably better than nothing. I don't know. I can only speak on my Arsenal head. I think for me, it's a short-term deal because, like you said, you can have that deal with Liverpool where, say, if a German club comes in for me, then I get to go. You can cancel my contract and I can leave on a free because, you know, I think we both know that, you know, as soon as Van Dijk and Matip and Gomez comes in, you know, he's going to be fourth place on the centre-back listing. So, yeah, it's just something that, there's chatter about it and, you know, we'll see what happens with that. I think if it does happen, it will happen very, very quickly. There's talks. Yeah, I think it'll just be like it may be the morning of the transfer window. You know, Liverpool contact Arsenal and say, okay, here's $1.5 million. Well, they might try lowball us with $1 million. We'll say no. We might get $1.5 million and then see what happens. But I think it's a doable deal, and I think it's a very easy doable deal for Liverpool because at the moment they are very desperate for centre backs.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that would get them in is how desperate they are. But otherwise, I don't really see it. They seem too sensible, Liverpool, to go in and do a short-term stopgap like this. I thought they'd be better off going bigger on someone else. But you know what? If they end up with Mustafi, I don't think many of us are going to be that bothered that Mustafi's left the club. And even if he does turn into the second coming of Beckenbauer up at Liverpool, I think we're all collectively put our hands up and say we never saw this from him at Arsenal. It's not a huge worry for me wherever he goes, a bit like most of the other players that we've let go this window. Don't let the door hit you or on the way out kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think barring that, I think these transfer windows, I don't see anybody else coming in for Arsenal at all. I think at the moment the squad is relatively settled, and I think that there's probably not at the moment. There's no space unless you're talking a couple of maybe under 21 players. Nobody can fit into the squad because the squad is still very, very full. So
yeah, I think the only one that I'd look to go out for is if we get rid of, we'll say, the players that we're expecting to go out on loan do go out on loan, is a backup left back for Tierney. It's the only player I'd like to see come in, and I wouldn't mind us dip into the Championship for that and grab somebody from there. But that might be buy them now, loan them back there till the summer, and then if we do end up with a massive injury crisis, recalling them.
Yeah, and also Runnison. I'm sure he was on the bench today, which I thought was very strange to see him on the bench. But hopefully he gets a loan out, or we sell him, because I don't really think that. I think that deal was very, very rushed as well, and I just think that we've taken a look at him and think to ourselves, yeah, he's not someone that I think we really, really want in our squad.
No.
So
yeah, I'd say with Ryan not being on the bench, I'd say it's purely just down to match fitness. Ryan hasn't played a game since when was he dropped? I think he played the first 5 games of the league season and then hadn't played since. He hasn't had many games at all. So that's where I'd kind of say, yeah, give him a couple another training sessions, and we'll see him on the bench against Wolves. I'd expect for a number of reasons. One, because Runnison isn't there.
Hopefully,
so yeah,
he does go out. There's nowhere else, is there? Hopefully Aubameyang. I personally think Aubameyang has to isolate for 10 days. I think he had to leave the country for his mother. And I think when he came back, he had to isolate for 10 days. And that's why you didn't see him in this game. And you didn't see him against Southampton in the league. Because I think Arteta said that due to the rules, he couldn't play. So I think that does tell you that isolation was sort of one of the reasons. But, I hope he does make a return against Wolves on Tuesday, and all is well with his family. And I hope that Saka makes a return as well. And yeah.
Cool. I think that covers everything, really.
It does indeed. I don't know who's on the pod this week. Danny will probably moan at us, and
I imagine the podcast will be on Thursday. I think it is, because we play Wolves on Tuesday. So we can talk about all the brand new signings we've brought in or not. More probably talking about outgoings. And
or unless we do a madness on and sign, I don't know,
Basuma. That's our madness. If we sign Basuma. I don't know who's on any of those. And then Villa on Saturday, and then a little bit of a gap before we play Leeds on Valentine's Day. How lovely.
Right. Josh, it was great talking to you.
It was great. It was a pleasure to be on. Great to chat to the chat box as well, and remind them to stick a like in the chat box if they enjoy what we're doing, and if they don't enjoy what we're doing, put a dislike. Every little helps.
Indeed. Right, that was an Arsenal podcast. Man United, Arsenal 0, Manchester United 0. Not the best game in the world, but a point is a point. Sometimes you've got to look on the bright side of life. Danny, click that button.